The NBA playoffs have officially begun, and this might be one of the most competitive NBA seasons we've had in a long time. Alongside what is a very close call for MVP with Embiid, Jokic and Giannis, there are loads of contenders in both the West and the East that could go ahead and win the whole thing. This year's playoffs is shaping up to be perhaps one of the most intense and exciting playoffs in a long time, with contenders right across the board. But bear in mind, this top 5 list is purely a reflection of my opinions and are based on both statistics, but also on my knowledge of basketball. Let's get right to it. In 5, we got the Philadelphia 76ers. The Sixers ended the regular season 3rd in the league at 54 wins and 28 losses, the 3rd best overall record in the league. They got, who many polls and experts are predicting, the soon-to-be MVP in Joel Embiid, who for the 2nd season in a row finished a scoring champion on 33 points per game. They got James Harden, who finished the season as assist leader with 10.7 assists per game, making him the only player in NBA history to finish a scoring champion 3 times and assist leader 2 times in their career. And their 3rd option in Tyrese Maxey has been averaging career highs in points at 20.3 per game, 3-point percentage at 43.5%, and steals at 0.8 per game. They've got all the pieces to do it, with their ability to get to the line while getting the opposing team into early foul trouble, and are a well-rounded team, with an offensive rating of 117.7 ranking them 4th in the league, and a defensive rating of 113.3 ranking them 8th in the league. But they're 5th for me purely because of Doc Rivers' postseason record. Before the Sixers-Nets series, he had a 104-100 record in the playoffs, despite coaching some of the best teams in the NBA like the Lob City Clippers, a Clippers team with Kawhi and Paul George who fumbled a 3-1 lead in the bubble, and of course lost to a weaker Hawks side in the playoffs in 2021. Harden himself has also performed considerably worse in the playoffs throughout his career, averaging just 22.9 points per game despite being a primary scorer for the vast majority of his career. And this is coupled with 6.2 assists per game, which we would expect to see go up. The Sixers team, without a doubt, has all the pieces for a championship. But I just see 4 teams that I believe are more likely to go all the way. In 4, perhaps controversially, I got the Phoenix Suns. They've got 3 mid-range kings in Kevin Durant, Chris Paul, and Devin Booker, and have the experience to go all the way, having lost in Game 6 of the Finals to the Bucks in 2021. And with Kevin Durant, a guy who's won 2 championships with 2 final MVPs along the way, they've got the perfect leader to get them there. In the regular season, Phoenix have gone 8-0 with KD. Not too bad. And KD has also averaged 26 points per game on 57% field goal percentage and 54.5% from 3. Offensively, it's going to be almost impossible for teams to guard this Phoenix team, with DeAndre Ayton also now a more prominent threat in the mid-range. They've also got solid defensive role players in Josh Okogie and Torrey Craig, and spark plugs like Terrence Ross coming off the bench. This is a deep squad, and Monty Williams knows how to set his teams up for success in the playoffs. This Phoenix team is still an unknown too, but that's also exactly what makes them such a threat. However, this team is still susceptible to imploding at any point, with all 3 of their star players all suffering from injuries amply this season. Out of 82 games this year, Chris Paul has played in only 59 games, Booker has played in 53, and KD has played in 47. The longer you keep these guys on the floor, which coaches usually do with their star players in the playoffs, the more you also risk an injury. But then the more you prevent your star players from getting injured by playing them less, the likelier you are to fall behind to the opposing team. And alongside this, they've lost their all-NBA defensive level player in Mikal Bridges, who has been absolutely balling for the Nets. In the playoffs, high-level defense is what is needed, and this is something the Suns now lack. You can have all the scorers you want, but if you're getting cooked on defense, you can still easily lose a series. At 3, which many may disagree with, I got the Denver Nuggets, who for the first time in their history finishes the 1 seed in the West. Led by the back-to-back MVP, and possibly this year's MVP in Nikola Jokic, These guys finally have a healthy squad to go all the way. You got Jokic averaging just shy of a triple-double this season, with 24.5 points, 11.8 rebounds, and 9.8 assists per game. And Jamal Murray averaging over 20 points per game, shooting 40% from 3, and averaging the most assists of his career at 6.2 assists per game, despite coming back from a big injury. And this is without mentioning the flamethrower that is Michael Porter Jr., who also coming back from a long-term injury, has averaged 41.5% from 3 on over 7 attempts per game. They were the only team in the league with a field goal percentage of at least 50%, 4th in the league for 3-point shooting at 37.9%, and had the 5th best offensive rating in the league at 117.6. Nikola Jokic, their star player, now has the pieces around him to go further than they ever have, and now have way more playoff experience than they did in the bubble, where they lost to the Lakers championship team in the Western Conference Finals in 2020. But they're third for me because of their inconsistent defense. Again, you need offense and defense to win a championship. And defense is something this Denver team has struggled with on occasion. They finished the regular season 15th in the league for defensive rating at 114.2, which is by no means terrible, but isn't where a championship contender should be. They also finished the season with the 11th most turnovers per game at 14.5. But not only is their defense a concern, their non-Joker minutes is something that has hampered them this season. Like last season, Jokic has the highest plus-minus in the league yet again with a differential of plus 640. And how they balance the necessity of playing Jokic for large proportions of the game while ensuring he doesn't pick up an injury or get overly fatigued is essential to their success, particularly if they make a deep run. In second, I have the Boston Celtics, and honestly, they could easily be in first. Finishing with the second best overall record in the league at 57 wins and 25 losses, this young Boston team can easily build on their success in the playoffs last year, where they lost in the finals to the Warriors in Game 6. Tatum has been playing at arguably an MVP level this year, where he finished 6th in scoring at 30.1 points per game, while arguably the best second option in the league, Jaylen Brown, finished 11th in scoring at 26.6 points per game. As long as one of them is lighting it up, this Boston team is deadly. And that's without mentioning the tenacious defense of Marcus Smart, and the impact new pickups like Derek White and Malcolm Brogdon have had on this team. They finished second in the league for offensive rating at 118, and third for defensive rating at 111.5, and have the best net rating in the league at 6.7. They lead in tons of advanced metrics like points differential and defensive rebound percentage, and have such a well-rounded and deep squad to go all the way. Joe Mazzulla has come up with an absolute masterclass in what is his first job as an NBA head coach. It's pretty hard to find a weakness in the Celtics team, but I got them in second place purely because they have less experience than who I have in first, as they haven't actually won a championship, but also because, despite having just praised Mazzulla, he hasn't coached in the playoffs, which is a completely different ballgame, especially when you come up against some of the best teams. The playoffs require tactical flexibility, and coaching for the first time in the playoffs, let alone the regular season, is a tough task. They might make easy work of the Hawks in the first round, but coming up against far more playoff experienced coaches like Doc Rivers and Mike Budenholzer, who won it all with the Bucks, might expose some of his coaching frailties. But all in all, these guys could easily be the favourites for me, and I wouldn't blame anyone if the Celtics were theirs. But I got the Milwaukee Bucks ahead of them. So, the favourites to win this year's NBA championship, in my humble opinion, is the Milwaukee Bucks. The Bucks ended the regular season with the best record in the entire league at 58 wins and 24 losses, having gone on some crazy unbeaten runs, including going for the league best record 16 wins in a row back in February. They got their MVP contender in Giannis Antetokounmpo, whose 31.1 points per game, a career high, put him at 5th in the league for scoring. In advanced stats, he's 4th for individual player efficiency at 32.9, behind only Jokic, Embiid and Doncic. But his support has also been pivotal, with Brook Lopez currently the leading candidate to win Defensive Player of the Year, with his 2.5 blocks per game second behind only Jaren Jackson Jr., whilst he leads the league in total blocks. His elite level rim protection is also complemented by Drew Holiday's elite level perimeter defense, whose offensive game has also been conducive to the Bucks' success, where he's shooting the 3 at 38% on 6 attempts per game. limiting their opponents to an average field goal percentage of just 45.3%, a league best record alongside the Grizzlies, whilst also having the 4th best defensive rating in the league at 111.9. These guys have it all on the defensive floor. And this is without mentioning their championship winning experience, where they literally still have the same starters, except for Grayson Allen replacing PJ Tucker, and a lot of the same bench, with the likes of Bobby Portis and Pat Connaughton continuing to excel. Their head coach, Mike Budenholzer, also has the championship winning experience which his Eastern rivals, Joe Mazzulla and Doc Rivers, both lack. Like the Celtics, it's pretty hard to come up with clear hurdles for this Bucks team. But turnovers have been a huge problem for them this year, with their 14.6 turnovers per game ranking them with the 9th worst team turnover average in the league, worse than the likes of the Blazers and the Hornets, who didn't even make the play-ins, let alone the playoffs. Their 3-point shooting could also come into question, with their team 3-point percentage of 36.8% worse than everyone else on this list, with the Sixers, the Nuggets, the Celtics and the Suns all shooting at least 37.5% from 3. But for me, it's pretty hard to find a flaw in this Bucks team. They've got all the pieces to go and win a second championship in just 3 years. So they're who I'd bet on winning this year's NBA Finals. Okay, so that's my top 5 for the teams I think are most likely to win this year's NBA. I'm actually pretty confident with the Sixers at 5, the Suns at 4 and the Nuggets at 3. But the Celtics and the Bucks could easily be swapped at 2 and 1 respectively. Please feel free to come back in about 2 months and call me out for my rubbish predictions. If you guys enjoyed the video and want to see more NBA content like this on a weekly basis, please drop a like and subscribe to the channel. It goes a long way. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.